moments when you're writing a poem, you know that it's happened or it doesn't. And then I then thought, no, this is, but then, you know, can walls fly? Actually, they can, and in light of the recent talk, but I had written my poem long before Donald Trump started talking about walls. So I thought that was a great way of looking at the world, actually, is that because all of us have obstacles in life. How do you overcome them?
Do you regard your poems regard your poems as children or siblings? And if so, is there an errant sibling?
Oh yeah, all the time, I think. I have a poem actually about how if one poem does well, then the others shine, bask in that light, glory, and then one does badly, and then everybody's dragged down. So, well, I don't know, but I didn't think of siblings or children or whatever. They're so much a part of me. Everything I write, including financial stuff. But the thing with finance, or the difference between writing something in finance is, I have 3 major finance books, and they're all like reference books now. Because I wrote a book about investing in India, for example. But then India has moved on so much that you can't read that book now and invest in India. But people are still reading it because it's a kind of a round sort of a reference book. The same with my book on how Oxford and Cambridge manage their endowments. So things have moved on. But with poetry, it's just wonderful that you can read a poem somebody wrote 100 years ago, and it's still alive, still there. So, yes.
Thank you very much for your readings. They were lovely. I really enjoyed them. I was wondering if you had a favourite poetic form, and if so, why?
I think the short answer is no. Because the poems create their own forms. So
You wouldn't say.
I know. I think it's good to write in a form like maybe read the sonnet where you're disciplining, So, but otherwise, no, I don't have a favorite form. I don't know if that disappoints you.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting when you were talking about difficulty in getting published and sort of accepted, very good writers sort of saying, oh, we like your stuff, but actually the magazine editors were sort of, 4 years on in the flux of taste, so you were kind of not quite with the tide or something of English poetry or American poetry. I felt I detected quite a lot of a sort of something of the voice of Eliot's 4 quartets. I wondered if that had been an influence on you.
Oh yes, major influence. I still think it's among the best poems. So, a poem I would go back and read. I did realize it was evident. But which poem did you feel that, or generally?
Well, generally, I really liked your poem, the one about not knowing, and sort of going through life not knowing.
Yeah, that I don't think Eliot was there actually, but
maybe not. Yes.
No, I don't think. If I tell you the source, you will laugh actually. But anyway, I'd rather not tell you how.
Do you think modern poetry is a little bit too caught up with literary fashions? We look back on the poets we love, and they're nothing to do with the current tradition. Do you think poets try too hard to be in the middle of the stream?
I think it's just human nature. I think because every generation wants to create its own sort of. You want to break away from tradition and create your own. Because we all know we are constantly telling. Mimi should be good to answer this question in the poetry school. She began. So if you have to get your own voice, because that's what you ultimately have to find. Then I think it's very important to read all these old masters. find your voice through them, probably. It's an individual journey. I don't think there's any prescribed path. And if you can find a guru, I think in life, we need gurus of all sorts, but they're all false gods, So if you can find a good one, then you're lucky. And yes, I have, I know a lot of people don't like Eliot at all, but I think particularly his four quartets, I like a lot. And a lot of people particularly dislike the four quartets because they like the wasteland of his earlier work. Okay.
Shanta, we've had so many conversations about poetry, obviously while you were putting together this collected works. But one thing I never asked you was, what did you see about the development of your work? I mean, that must have been quite something to pull your best poems from each collection. And I know when I go back and look at old work myself, I sometimes wish I hadn't written that particular poem or published that poem. Did you ever feel that? And what did you feel when you saw the arc of your work from beginning to now?
Well, on the publication side, again, I've had a weird journey because it takes forever to publish anything. So if you're waiting for 10 years, you have plenty of time to weed out all the stuff that you don't really. So I'm under no pressure to publish and perish because it's just real hard work. And that's an advantage in hindsight. And so it's each book, it's not like poems written in those 3 years or whatever. It's poem written over 20 years. And then you have 2 or 3 books or whatever. So that's been my entire story, that it would take 20 years before you have a book.
Did you see it change? Your
Well, as a
work
result,
that
if you read it, there are some poems in the beginning that will contain my philosophy as well. So you could argue that, oh God, this person doesn't evolve at all, but that's not true because. But then I suppose again, I'm wary of saying Hindu, but it's this. I did not mention one thing in that. In what you don't know is I do like the Hindu definition of God, neti neti, not this, not this. And that idea, so nothing, nothing is God. So that allows you to evolve endlessly, really. And that, I think, is the underlying theme of what I'm trying to say or do, is that every perception is limited. Everything you say or do needs to be changed or addressed. Sometimes 20 years is a very long time. Even in our own lives, I feel the things you believed in when you were an adolescent, they don't stand scrutiny now. And some people say that I wouldn't change anything about my life if I had to live again. I just admire them. I would change everything, a lot of things. So I don't know. It all depends on the willingness to change. And I don't understand why people always criticize somebody if they change their minds. What's wrong with it? I'm with Emerson, sort of consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. So happy for that evolution to take place. But otherwise, I don't think I look for that sort of thing when I'm writing. Like in a novel, you have to create a story, a journey, and it evolves. But that's the good thing about poetry is you can write something that is by itself, it's complete in itself. So to that extent, reading poetry for me works superior because you can actually read an 8-line poem and actually take away a lot from it, having to go through an 800-page novel. So anyway, I'm not saying, because I have written a novel which was 360 pages and I intend to write a trilogy, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't be writing 800, 900-page novels. I admire a lot of novels that are 1,000 pages long or whatever. So I think it's better not to ask such questions unless you have an academic paper to write or something, you should allow it to be free.
I enjoyed the reading.
Anyway, hello.
You mentioned loneliness,
Mhm.
and I was wondering whether you come across the idea of, for some writers, they've described it, their relationship with the page as having a kind of magnetism.
Their relationship with
With the page,
yeah.
as it almost being quite hypnotic, magnetic, in the sense that you can almost have an intimate relationship with the idea of the reader, as opposed to that's one kind of relationship, that's one kind of way of breaking that sort of solitariness, is that there is a kind of intimacy in the act of writing.
Well, I'm not sure I think of a reader when I write. When I write, I just forget everything. I forget myself as well. And I know there are times when I try to go to bed early every day, but then I never actually succeed, because I would go up and try to write something. I'll say I'll do this for half an hour and then I'll go to bed. And then up there with my computer, it could be 3 o'clock, because there's nobody there to say you need to go to bed. So to that extent, yes, it does banish loneliness, because I'm just there. That whole writing process has taken over, and I'm not thinking of anything. The moment you stop and then you think, oh my God, I have to go to bed, and then you think, oh God, all these things have to be done tomorrow. So I sometimes wish you could write endlessly without stop, but then you need energy to also do that. No, I definitely could not survive without writing. I would fall ill, I think. It has happened to me when I go for long periods without being able to write. When I come back home, it's just furious writing. It's like therapy, or just, all the food you've missed or whatever. I don't know if it answers your question, but I agree. Yeah. I think we've nicely timed it. 7:30 just passed. And Jay, shall we go down? Yeah. So we can go down for a drink and books. And hopefully some more photos. Thank you.